Alright, Playbook. Cross Philosophy Tube. Double wrong. Let's see what this is. This is a poor man's card posting dog whistle series, right?
Say, for the sake of argument, you're having a discussion with a coworker about healthcare.
I'd rather die. Although, to be fair, I was a carer for like a year, 2 years, for people with spinal injuries. So in a sense, I'd be talking about healthcare, but not like, I presume this is going to be like healthcare insurance, who has a right to it, how should it work, so on and so forth.
Actually, let's go ahead and drop the pretense. You're having a discussion about trans healthcare. He says puberty blockers should be banned because some study said they're dangerous. Right. And you're a thoughtful person, so you look it up. Only when you do, you find that
Danganronpa puberty blockers.
The study
will it hurt child top of his head?
Doesn't say what he said it does.
Many such cases, to be fair. Many such cases. That age... Wait. Dim. My name's Bim. Oh, God. I'm aware of multiple philosophy tube clips people don't like. There's one where they're like, dysphoria isn't real, but that's a post-trans. What's this?
Alice Rose recently found out about LeftTube. Really enjoy your content. Came at a good time because I've recently been through a tough break lately over who I am. Oh, a tough breakup over who I am and a lot of gender dysphoria. Any advice? I don't have any advice on dealing with gender dysphoria. It's not something I've ever experienced.
They maintain that, though. This didn't age poorly. Because since transing out, they have stated that they don't believe in gender dysphoria, right? I believe.
For breakups. I've been there. Time really does heal all wounds.
You better hope not. Anyway. Oh.
Maybe it says something close.
Yeah.
Maybe it says the total opposite.
Often occurs.
But more than that, you realize even if it said what he said it did, that still wouldn't support his argument. Dangerous could mean a lot of things.
Oh
my little,
God.
A lot?
Let's just put kids in a little bit of danger.
Low risk? High risk? Maybe one study isn't enough to go on. Hell, maybe it's bogus for a whole host of other reasons. Maybe it's written by people with an obvious agenda.
Damn. What if, you not already being familiar with it suggests you are almost in just as poor a position as they are to engage in this sort of discourse, and you probably shouldn't be fucking talking about this stuff with coworkers combatively. Just a bad idea.
Or contradicted by a better study he's ignoring. So you go back and tell your coworker, hey, the study doesn't say that, and even if it did, you know, but he simply repeats, the study said they're dangerous. He's not just wrong, he's double wrong. Institutions...
Oh, this is Orwellian, bro.
...create policy documents...
I'm saying bro too much. I should never have listened to that black guy. I think I have, like, a, there are a bunch of words I want to say about myself that I can't. I have an African spirit. I have to be dangerous. Sorry, I have to be careful around black people. Because they say all sorts of things. And if they say it too much, I start saying it.
All the time. Anti-bullying policies, climate policies, DEI policies. Your job probably has a bunch of them. But a lot of the time, these documents exist not to be read or followed, just pointed to. If someone is bullied, harassed, or discriminated against, managers might point to a policy that says, we are committed to not doing that. And that's it. The more you insist, hey, these policies aren't being followed, the problem still exists.
Is this a no, being a Karen is great, actually, video?
The more you become the problem.
This is a Karen video.
The document is a dummy argument, a substitute for the real one. There's a problem, the
HR might try to stop you from putting cameras in the women's bathroom, but I think you'll find that their simple statement that it's unacceptable isn't an argument. And besides, you're trans, so you can do whatever you want at all times.
No, there isn't. This isn't a conversation about what some document says or doesn't say. It's a conversation about power. When your coworker cites a study that doesn't support his argument, he's using that document in a similar way. He's not reading it, just...
This is conspiracy theory time, bro.
...pointing to it. This piece of paper means you have to listen to...
Oh, Micronauts, thank you. Thank you for filling my heart. This one's fine. Thank you very, very much.
The study could be about plankton, or Henry VIII, or squirrel poop for all the difference it makes. Okay, maybe it matters a little. It has to at least look semi-legit at a glance. He's not using evidence to inform his position. He's decided what his position is, and he's pantomiming evidence to support it.
I have bad news about most human beings. I have bad news about, like, pretty much all people ever.
It's almost as if we've stumbled into the Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Even when people have evidence that works for their position and is convincing and all that good stuff, most of the time that's just them being lucky.
Little Mickey's put on the hat and declared, I know how this works. You stand up all big and tall and say, I have a study that says you have to do what I tell you. That's how you...
Sorry, was the coworker in this situation trying to stop you from giving a child puberty blockers directly?
Always play.
Was the trans person in the office actually planning on giving puberty blockers to a kid?
Well, this time I've got a study, so you have to do as I say. And you can tell him, that's not how this works, Mickey. It's a study, not an incantation. It has to actually say what you claim, and it has to be a good study. Oh, look at you, moving the goalposts. Look at you, gatekeeping, deciding which studies count and which ones don't. Well, I believe this one's every bit as good as yours, and I believe it proves me right. And is that what he believes? Maybe, maybe not. Remember, the card says moops. You can't prove he doesn't believe that. And for the purposes of you have to listen to me.
It really is an entry to the Innuendo Studios cinematic universe.
That's
Everyone's favorite
all he
came back.
needs. This is a battle of wills now, not information. Each half of the double wrong argument functioning as both Mott and Bailey. If you successfully expose that study as bogus, he'll move on to another.
You want to know something cool? There are people who will tell you you're wrong and then point to this video as why you're wrong. In fact, they'll say, actually, you're double wrong. Look at this video.
And you'll only be undermining the scientific method, in his view, if studies aren't always to be trusted. If even quack science can get peer-reviewed, who's to say your studies aren't as bogus as his?
Is this just people being all fucked up by arguing online and getting so mad at randoms saying dumb stuff online that they've formulated an entire, I guess, worldview to encompass their butthurt?
And that's if he doesn't change evidence entirely. Okay, maybe I can't.
People on Twitter will pretend they didn't say something they did. And then they'll take a contradictory position that would undermine their previous statement. They're just doing this online.
Prove puberty blockers are dangerous, but this study says trans kids have high regret rates. This one says they're unhappy. This one says they're brainwashed. He's understood the rhetorical function of science, but not the substance. Or perhaps he's understood the rhetorical function all too well, enough to know, for the purposes of argument, substance rarely matters.
True.
From here, you can chart the
And I would never, ever take advantage of that.
course of the entire conversation stretching out before you.
Philosophy
You
tube.
might rush in, hold the document under his nose and say, look, it doesn't say what you said it does. What's the matter? Can't read?
I like to imagine this person in an office hallucinating their co-worker as a 4chan user.
Which might be satisfying, but does make you look the pedantic asshole. Or you can reject his so-called evidence as patently false, inadmissible, and leave yourself vulnerable to being obliterated the moment you make an honest mistake with a citation. Or you can research every single shred of information he puts in front of you so you can...
There are people, like, just in the shower fantasizing about winning an argument with a coworker. This is sad.
thoroughly debunk each and every one, which means he simply keeps putting bunk in front of you and drowns you with homework. And he must see it too. The conversation laid out in front of him. He hasn't positioned himself to persuade you, but to ensure neither of you ever persuades the other. What is the purpose of this debate then? This ritual? What is it you're really arguing about? Well, your coworker believes that the government, or a doctor doing what the government tells them, should force citizens from a minority to do something with their bodies they don't want to do.
Ooh. You want to talk about rhetoric? Not swallowing a chemical as something you don't want to do with your body is already questionable framing, dog.
But he won't say that out loud because he knows that's socially unacceptable. I want the...
No, that framing sounds bad. Yeah, why would he use a bizarro framing? Right? Why would someone say, let's say you're faced with the idea, like, let's say there's like a religious group that wants to cut out the kids, half of every child's liver. You could describe that in the same way, and it would sound bad to say don't do that. Fucking idiot. You're pretending to understand rhetoric.
Government to force people to do what I want with their bodies, no matter how many of them die in the process, is an opinion that isn't likely to...
I would take that position regarding cutting off children's heads. No matter how many kids die as a result of not cutting off their heads, I think none should be allowed to. No cephaloectomies.
Make friends. So he substitutes the document for the thing he really believes. It's not me, it's just science.
That's not really what's happening, though. No, that's not what's happening at all. He's suggesting it's a scenario where it shouldn't be allowed because it's bad. He's countering the argument that it should be done because it's good. He's saying, no, it's bad. He would only say, I want the government to force people to do what I want with their bodies, no matter how many of them die in the process, if he believed it was, like, life-saving care. This is deranged. This is propaganda. This is, like, really blatant, horrendous, poorly done propaganda.
Appealing to facts when, truthfully, this is a difference in values. Double wrong is a rhetorical technique to catch you out.
No, what you just did is...
to hide the real argument from you and leave you chasing the substitute.
No, the real argument is it shouldn't be done because it's harmful. He disagrees fundamentally that it's necessary healthcare. That's the argument. That is the argument. What the f***?
It also protects him. People deploy these kinds of irrational paradoxes.
The actual argument isn't the government should force children to die. That's his actual position. No, his actual position and argument is it's not life-saving care. It's dangerous for kids.
Moves to stop themselves thinking about topics that make them uncomfortable. If your co-worker interrogated his values about the proper relation...
Like, the right-wing version of this video is... they'll point to how many women will die if you don't allow abortions, but actually, their position that they're pretending they don't have is... they love murdering babies. Now, they wouldn't say, I love murdering babies, because that would sound bad. But that's their real argument. It's a rhetorical trick that they don't say that.
Relationship between the government and minorities, he might find he's not the person he thought he was. Or that his friends and colleagues expect him to be. And you might too. Let's not pretend leftists and liberals...
Children who might medically require puberty blockers aren't a minority, though. As in, it's not just trans kids. Just, if we want to be really precise and nitpicky, okay?
Have the moral high ground all the time. Interrogating your fundamental values is an uncomfortable experience for most people. He probably wants to think of himself as a...
For instance, kids who would go through a precocious... I believe it's called a precocious puberty, where it's super early, so they delay it.
Good person. And yet... he also believes, maybe not even consciously, that the government should own the bodies of at least some citizens.
Does Philosophy Tube genuinely not understand that what they're doing right now is an example of, dishonest rhetoric? The position isn't the government should own your body, the government should take actions to protect general public health. It's the idea that the government should step in to stop people from being mutilated and tortured inappropriately versus getting healthcare. His character... the government should stop human experimentation, torture, and mutilation, right? What he classes as that is different to what you class it as that. And I don't think you'd... maybe this person will be okay. Like, is this person okay? Like, if kids want to have their heads cut off? If a kid wants to just get katanaed in the neck? Head off. That's the government owning their body. If they say no.
He knows he'd probably hate that if it happened to him, but he still wants it to happen to others.
Do people genuinely fall for this video? You'd hate it if the government owns your body. If the government owned your body, that would be terrible. But you still don't think babies should be allowed to have sex. That's the government having too much control over their body. You wouldn't like it. You wouldn't like it. No, it's stupid. It's called equivocation, what's occurring here. The thing that is control over your body, for this guy, is being used to allow you to imagine him being stopped from doing any given thing. Controlling a child's body is, or rather, controlling a child's body, even though we're talking about control of a body here, is referring to something where there's disagreement on whether or not it's just a child being abused and harmed.
Double wrong relieves him of the burden of forming a
what the government owns your body means is different when referring to the guy and when referring to a child.
National position. The document is his nice, big safety blanket. This plays on a human weakness that spans the entire political spectrum.
I didn't realize how bad this would be.
We all wrap ourselves snug in faulty information from time to time. We share studies without reading because the abstract conforms to our assumptions. We treat a supposition that is likely as though it's a proven fact. And this is, after a point, necessary. As informed as you are, you do have to stop researching somewhere. You do, at some point, have to go on assumptions, take someone's word, trust that a pattern holds, because the video's due before the end of the month if you want to charge your patrons and make rent. Sorry. But we do sometimes treat research as a ritual rather than a method, because often we want to appeal to facts, papers, authorities, without having to do any of that pesky reasoning.
Hey, ironically, given that they referred to Martin Bailey, we've gone from not wanting harm to come from a child due to procedures and medication you believe is actually harmful and unnecessary, is the government controlling your body, and people are just using studies to try and win a game of power to control children, to, hey, we all kind of fall into this trap. We all fall victim to confirmation bias. That's all this video really is. You know, people fall victim to confirmation bias.
But that is exactly
That's
what
all they
leaves
said.
us open to a double wrong attack. The flaw with your co-worker's study is he's using it to claim trans healthcare is dangerous. And he's wrong. He has a comeback for every way you could try to convince him.
I like that this video's source for why he's wrong is the text "and he's wrong" popping up on screen.
But he's still wrong. You can't prove trans healthcare is safe by gesturing at studies, because the opposition won't read them, and will write their own studies. You can't prove it with peer review, because they'll game peer review. You can't call them liars, because they'll insist they're sincere.
This video is the case for accepting giving kids puberty blockers is good and healthy as an axiom.
There is no rule they can't pervert, no system they can't twist to their advantage. You can't just appeal to things that signify reason. At some point, one of you will have to do some actual reasoning to figure out who's making sense. And, well, it's not going to be them. Remember, this is a conversation about values.
I think there's more truth in that than this person would want to admit. It reaches into the matter of the facts and what you would accept as a
Assuming
fact.
you know what yours are, you may have to speak them aloud. I think people should do what they like with their bodies without politicians interfering.
Nice. Child rape it is. Let's go.
And even if I thought puberty blockers were dangerous, which by the way they're not, because on the off chance you actually care about evidence, here's all the good stuff, I think people have the right to make risky decisions about their healthcare too.
Children should be allowed to get giant fake tits. Would be supported by this, for instance. Just so you know. Philosophy Tube, do you know how much this statement backs up? Did you think about it?
If there was a
You're responsible for the logical outcome of your statements, right? If you say a set of values and you suggest that that's all encompassing of your position, and a logical outcome of following your reasoning is certain things like kids will be allowed to get boob jobs, you've stated you support that.
drug with a 1% chance of healing your terminal cancer and a 99% chance of dangerous side effects, I'd support your right to take it if you want it.
Note that your example went to the example to back up their claim that people should be able to do, and remember, children. In this example, children should be allowed to do anything they feel like with their body, even if it's dangerous for them. The hypothetical scenario they gave is someone who is going to die anyway taking a drug that might stop that from happening, and they're pretending to be brave.
Now you've avoided the trap of arguing about what some document says. You're focusing
You're gonna look crazy if you say this to someone.
on the second.
If you say this to me, I'm going to press them on this. This is, dude, people are going to get giga raped. If people take this advice and start saying, I think kids should be able to do anything they want with their body, even if it's dangerous. Hey, this guy's a pedophile. Say that again. Say it again. Child rapist would be my...
and deeper part of the double wrong instead of the first. You've
like
also
you might get killed. If you take this advice, you might literally get killed in real life. Don't say what Abigail is telling you to say.
on the back foot. Now he has to justify his values. which is exactly what he wanted to avoid.
Debregi has become a member.
Of course.
They will never support puberty blockers because of kids' feelings. Proof we need a ultimate solution today. Chudden question.
Chudden.
Of course, he may just repeat himself. The study says they're dangerous. This is not a technique for winning arguments.
It's a technique for getting lynched because you just said anything is on the table to do to a child because you think they have full bodily autonomy no matter what. And the government should never get between a child and what they say they want. That's full pedo, bro. What are you doing?
It's a technique for starting them.
Thank you, Abby, for doing this video with me. Everybody watching, if you're not already subscribed to PhilosophyTube, I highly recommend checking it out. Abby is a wonderful person, gives great hugs, and her videos have honestly gotten me through some tough times. Outside the world of video essays, Abby is in Star Wars and House of the Dragon and Baldur's Gate 3 and this short film, Dracula's Ex-Girlfriend, which she wrote and which uses
Kind of f***ed up that they put this person in a game called Balding Gay 3.